Guys, welcome back to another Mystelics Reacts channel right there. And then, guys, we're going to be talking about a number of things right there in this regard. But, guys, we're going to first focus on this thing that you're seeing right there. But before we get into that, guys, round of applause goes out to each and every one of you guys who tuned into yet another Mystelics reaction video, guys. I'm getting right into it, guys. Don't forget, if you want to become a part of the Mystelics family, definitely subscribe and turn on that post notifications so you can get all the videos as they tend to come through. Let's get into this right there, guys, because we have a number of things to talk about in this year vlog. Now, guys, according to this individual who made a post under my video, I think yesterday, he stated the young 16-year-old boy didn't throw a stone behind the Chinese man. He only slapped him and he ran for his life because the Chinese man was, of course, coming behind him with a sab. And there were, of course, two boys in the situation. The other boy that threw the stone, according to this individual right there, on the Chinese man's head, burst his head. And the boy that threw the stone on his head, that's interesting, the English structure right there, ran somewhere to hide in Rusu, in the Rusu side, and they are framing the 16-year-old boy when it comes down to this situation. And of course, they're saying that the 16-year-old boy in question, that the hell apparently was not the individual. This is what the person is saying. The mother is also stating the same thing as well, stating that it's some other boy that the boy was with. And this is why I mentioned earlier on, guys, you have to be careful, be very much aware of the company that you keep, because the company that you keep can be very, very bad news right there. Today, this brother is in jail right now, and of course, he is being considered an individual, a fugitive, of course. Well, not only a fugitive, but he can't go anywhere because they denied him the bail in this regard right there. But the other individual in question, of course, because we heard that there were multiple individuals. I heard there was 3 of them, then some individual told me there's 2, and of course, a number of persons are sticking to 2 in this regard right there. Like I said before, there's a number of things that we're trying to figure out what exactly happened, because a 16-year-old boy who might be innocent in this regard, but by association is guilty of the fact that he was with this individual committing these situations, whatever, and decided to run in this regard. Now, guys, I'm not saying that the 16-year-old boy did commit the crime. Of course, he has to prove this in court when it comes down to the situation right there, who exactly did it. But like I was telling individuals out there, be careful, be mindful of the company that you keep right there. Talking about company, guys, we're moving on to the whole situation. A number of persons wanted me to avoid this conversation right there. But you know me already. I'm not a person to shy away from something that I know is actually going on, especially since individuals don't seem to have a clue what is going on, yet still they're trying to talk as if they know. So we're going to break this thing down right there, guys. Of course, this was a video that took place in 2010. As you can see right there, the Carnegie Council 2010, guys. I want you guys to listen to what he's saying right there in regards to the Russia, Ukraine, United States situation right there. Take a listen to this, guys.
It's not over for the Russians. It's a reality. NATO's sitting on its borders. It's not about future NATO expansion. It's about current. NATO expansion represents the following to Russia. And near this I will end. It represents a profoundly broken promise to Russia.
I stated this very same thing right there. The United States promised them that they will not infringe upon the border areas of Russia. They promised them this thing. Let's continue.
By the first Bush.
This is in 2010, by the way, guys. 2010, not there. Some of you just like to talk and just swallow whatever the media telling you. Listen to what he's saying right there.
In return for united Germany and NATO, NATO would not expand eastward. This is beyond any dispute. People say, well, they never signed a treaty. But a deal is a deal. The United States gives its word, unless we're shysters. And if you don't get it in writing, we'll cheat you. We broke our word. And when both Putin...
And they're talking about the expansion of the other different places. I think Poland is one of them, and some of the other areas around there. That they were talking about, you know, expanding to NATO. Even though the United States promised. Now, guys, keep in mind, NATO was a thing that came together as a result of the war between Germany. I think it is Germany and a number of... I think it's Germany they were thinking. Even though Russia was the one who pretty much won the war right there, because they are the ones who lost most of their troops when it comes down to the situation with Germany. And NATO was formed as a result of this to collaborate to fight against the enemies. And as a result of the World War, whatever taking place, that was gone. World War II, I think it was, that was gone. And of course, NATO still remained, and they wanted to say, okay, what next? So they decided to try to expand, but they promised Russia that they will not come within their borders or not come within the vicinity. Remember, Russia today is different from the Russia that was back then. You know, there are more countries associated to Russia. And as a result of them coming independent and whatnot, they promised them that they will not get involved or not come close to them. But apparently that is not the case. This is what he's talking about right there. Let's continue.
And Medvedev say publicly to Madeleine Albright and others, we, Russia, feel deceived and betrayed. That's what they're talking about.
Yep. So this is 2010, guys. This situation has escalated slowly but surely during this time. Let's continue.
So NATO represents on the part of Russia a lack of trust.
Yep.
You break your words to us. To what extent can we trust you? Secondly, it represents military encirclement.
Yep.
If you sit in the Kremlin and you look out at where NATO is and where they want to go, it's everywhere.
Yep.
It's everywhere.
They want to conquer everybody. And one of the things that they're trying to do is to conquer Ukraine. They're giving Ukraine a false ideology that they will definitely come for them or with them, join them, make the Ukraine people West. And they have been slowly and surely putting that thing inside the Ukraine people. And slowly and surely the Ukraine people have been accepting that without no merit, no evidence whatsoever. So when people come to me and tell me I don't know what I say, or you must stop talk foolishness. Let's continue the next one. Let's say this guy's lying. Let's move on to somebody else, guys. This one, I would like you guys to listen to Kim Iverson right there. I take a piece of that, what she's saying. But this one is in 2015. 2015 right there. The University of Chicago right there. And this professor is giving his viewpoint on the situation right there.
I actually think that what's going on here is that the West is leading Ukraine down the primrose path.
Exactly.
And the end result is that Ukraine is going to get wrecked.
Yep. That is what is happening today. This was 2015, you know, guys. This is exactly what is happening today.
And I believe that the policy that I'm advocating, which is neutralizing Ukraine and then building it up economically and getting it out of the competition between Russia on one side and NATO on the other side, is the best thing that could happen to the Ukrainians.
But that's what should have been. Ukraine should have remained a middle ground and no problem would have happened. None whatsoever. Let's continue, people.
What we're doing is encouraging the Ukrainians to play tough with the Russians. We're encouraging the Ukrainians to think that they will ultimately become
the
part
West.
of the West.
Of course. Guys, this is the first time I've seen. I only heard a snippet of this thing. The first time I'm seeing this, by the way. So let's continue.
We will ultimately defeat Putin, and we will ultimately get our way. Time is on our side. And of course, the Ukrainians are playing along with this. And the Ukrainians are almost completely unwilling to compromise with the Russians and instead want to pursue a hardline policy. As I said to you before, if they do that, the end result is that their country is going to be wrecked.
And that is what is happening today. Russia is wrecking up Ukraine because of their sidelining when the United States promised them. I showed you guys the video, you know, stating right there. They promised them that they would not infringe on their doorsteps. And they did that. They're trying to do that. They're trying to force them to come, Ukraine to join into NATO.
And what we're doing is, in fact, encouraging that outcome. I think it would make much more sense for us to work to create a neutral Ukraine. It would
Obviously.
be in our interest to bury this crisis as quickly as possible. It certainly would be in Russia's interest to do so. And most importantly, it would be in Ukraine's interest to put an end to the crisis.
No, guys, there's something I have to mention right there. No, the United States, you guys will understand what I say in a moment. The United States is actually importing about 600,000 gallons of Russian gas, natural gas. 600,000 per day. So if you notice the sanctions that they give, have nothing to do with the importing that amount. Because if Russia decides, you know what, no more gas, the economy in the United States is going to go belly up. Prices are going to skyrocket. Because the individuals out there are pretty much giving, Russia is pretty much supplying a large amount, 600,000 Gallons. Oh, you mad. Anyways, guys, let's continue right there. And before we continue, guys, keep in mind that right at present, Russia is supplying Nord Stream 1. You should know about Nord Stream 1. At least Nord Stream 1 is supplying about 40% of Europe gas, natural gas, guys. They are oil. They're providing 40% of Europe's energy right there. Nord Stream 2 came into the possession right there. Russia was building nothing. Bush didn't want, what is his name again? Obama didn't want it. President Biden didn't want it. Trump didn't want it either. But they still went ahead. They say, okay, thanks for your recommendation. Thanks a lot for that, but we'll still continue with the pipeline. Then they told Germany, okay, if you want to continue your pipeline, but if the Russia has any aggression or whatever, you should stop the pipeline. Who instigated the aggression of Russia? By trying to force Ukraine to join NATO, totally going against what they said that they would not do. United States. Now keep in mind, no man, let's continue, man.
I think that right now we're confronted with something that potentially could have been avoided.
All they had to say, all Ukraine had to say, we will not join NATO and leave the energy supply alone. That is all. We'll get into that, guys.
And the fundamental blunder that the United States made in the mid-'80s, late '80s, early '90s, was the expansion of NATO. I mean, here we'd won the Cold War. We'd won the Cold War.
So it was over.
And
but no, they wanted to continue.
Then had people saying, well, now what are we going to do with NATO? Oh, well, I don't know. It's a bureaucracy. It works. What are we going to do with it?
By the way, NATO is a thing where if you join in, they'll protect you. That's what NATO is. It's a war thing. It's not to say, you suffer and you have a problem in your ways. Okay, no. They're pretty much saying if somebody attacks you, the whole nation will come together and think. Ukraine is not a part of NATO. And of course, that's infringing in the security region of Russia when it comes on to the situation right there. They had a problem with this. It's expanding to a number of places, Poland and a number of places. Russia allowed it, but then they reach right on their doorstep. So what do you expect them to do? Not retaliate? The same thing if that happened to the United States and Mexico decide they're going to get some warheads or whatever. You know what's going to happen? America is going to go in to stop that. But that's the same thing that they're doing in the East. Or you don't understand? Let's continue.
And so then the idea of expanding NATO. And the problem with it is this. During the negotiation for the reunification of Germany, Gorbachev and Jim Baker says to Gorbachev, in the treaty it says, no NATO troops in what was then East Germany. In the discussions, and I had this conversation with Gorbachev last summer, he told me very directly, the conversation with Jim Baker, the question was, Baker saying, NATO, if you agree to reunification of Germany in NATO,
Baltic states.
NATO will not expand 1 inch further east, which is what I went to see Gorbachev to confirm, because I care so much about this. Is this true? Now, the interpretation on the American side, Scowcroft says, well, he misinterpreted. Baker, I haven't quite pinned down. Gorbachev says very specifically, he said, if you expand 1 inch further, if you allow reunification, Germany and NATO will not expand 1 inch further east. And then Gorbachev told me, Kohl told him the same thing, which was new information, right? So the first Bush keeps his promise. Assume it's a promise. They talk about partnership for peace, and Russians kind of like that idea. And then Clinton comes in. What's the early thing he does in his first term? He expands NATO. Why expand NATO? And I've been rereading, because I've been thinking of writing something about this, Strobe Talbot's article in Foreign Affairs about why expand NATO, and you read it and you say,
like, why? What is the point? What is the point are you trying to achieve in expanding NATO right in Russia's doorstep? No, guys, there was a bit of a situation that was happening. We'll get to that, man. I hope we have enough time, man.
That's a reason, you know. And last summer again, I'm talking to a number of people that I've known for many years. Two guys who ran for president in Russia in 1996 and 2000. And, you know, one of them says to me, I'm out campaigning in the Urals. Somebody comes up to me and says, this is 96. Why are the Americans expanding NATO? Isn't that a military alliance?
Of course it is.
And they said, well, yeah, but it's a military alliance. And the guy said, the politician said, Russians might not be able to understand puts and calls, but they certainly understand tanks.
Yep.
Right? And think of it this way. What would any politics 101, somebody who's a friend, supporter, goes bankrupt, what do?
Help them
You
out.
call them up on the phone and say, you know, Joe, it's tough. I know things are going to be okay. You're going to be back. You know, you show them some respect. And what did we do? We kicked them when they were down. We expanded NATO. And in expanding NATO, created the issue that allows the authoritarianism that has returned to say it was justified. And I think that it was a blunder of monumental proportions. When I was at Oxford, I spent a lot of time on the origins of the Cold War. And, you know, I read all these documents, and, I mean, all of the documents. And it's, you know, the Russians were responsible, basically. You know, here, it's unfortunate. It's a blunder of vision. And in the best of circumstances, it was bureaucratic inertia in NATO that people had to have a job. In the worst of circumstances, it was a self-fulfilling prophecy with certain people in the Clinton administration who
Guys, you get the point already. Let's move on to this one right there. Let's move on. This is German MP of on Ukraine.
Well, we're skeptical because of, firstly, of our...
They asked her a question about what do the people think. Because there's a difference between what the people think versus what the leadership are doing. The leadership, and this seems to be across the world right there. The people want something different. The leaders want something different. The leaders are doing what the other leaders are doing amongst the leadership sphere. That is who they cater into. They don't cater into the people, which is rather interesting. Anyways, this is what she's talking about right here.
Experiences with the U.S. policy, just imagine or remember 2003, when Bush and his coalition with some countries like the UK, they were invading Iraq because of weapons of mass destruction.
It was never found. Which was never found.
Remember the Minister of State, the
Colin,
Secretary of State, Colin Powell, with his famous show on the UN Security Council, where he showed all the world his proofs, his so-called proofs about weapons of mass destruction. And we know now 1 million death bodies in Iraq because of this invasion of the US, and no one is responsible.
No one is responsible for that. Anyways, guys, let's continue a bit further right there. You get the point.
And what concerns us all is that the US administration apparently knows better when a Russian invasion will take place in Ukraine than the Russian government or the Russian president.
This is where the Donbass region comes in, guys. Ukrainian people were fighting against the Donbass people. The Donbass people were running into Russia, seeking refugee. This is why they started lining up military individuals along the Donbass region to protect them from getting more. And then they went in.
And that makes us clear. I mean, that makes us asking, what does Joe Biden know what Putin doesn't know?
What's even worse than that is Kamala. They're sending Kamala, Tebek, Kamala they're sending to try to make negotiations happen. She cannot even fix the border. But she's trying to make negotiations happen on a real situation. And she seems to have been escalating that situation bit by bit because it's not getting better. Boy.
You know, And this is something which is really curious, and I'm very much concerned because it wouldn't be the first false flag operation by the US or by allies of the US to provoke a military intervention. I mean, it's sure that the Russians have to intervene
Of course.
and react if there is a military attack at the Donbass by the Ukrainians, by the Azov battalion, the far
Oh, you probably didn't hear that. Let's go back.
and at the Donbass.
In the Donbass region. In the Donbass region, brothers and sisters. The Donbass region wanted Ukraine to take over, but Russia didn't want to take over Donbass because they view Donbass as a buffer zone between Russia and Ukraine. The Ukraine started attacking Donbass people.
By the Ukrainians, by the Azov battalion, the far right part of the Ukraine military service.
It's not me that's saying these things, you know, guys. Anyways, guys, let's continue right there. Let's continue.
A clear answer to that question of whose interests are served, and most
Listen carefully. Listen carefully. What is the interest there? What is the regions? Remember I told you I got the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2? Keep in mind, Nord Stream 2 would have provided 80% total of Europe, the entire Europe's energy supply. 80%. And keep in mind that the United States is importing over about 600,000 gallons of gas from Russia. Keep that in mind. Hey, let's continue.
importantly, whose interests are harmed by this easing of tensions is provided by a single stock exchange report in these days. For
Simple.
example, the US fracking company Occidental Petroleum, for example, in which Warren Buffett has a significant stake, lost 2.6% of its stock value.
Guys, listen carefully.
On Tuesday, following the first signs of de-escalation when the German Chancellor Scholz was in Moscow speaking with Putin, and followed by a further 3.3% on Wednesday. So they lost
Lost why?
a lot of persons and on their stock value, and the reason cited was the easing of tension on the Russian-Ukrainian border.
The easing of tension on the Russian-Ukrainian border caused the United States to lose.
Just imagine, because they're losing if we have a
De-escalation.
and they are winning if we have
Escalation of the war. Because we come down to the Nord Stream 2 pipeline now, guys. Remember, the United States promised Germany, okay, you can continue doing your thing, whatnot. But if there's any escalation or whatnot by Russia, you need to stop the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. It stopped. It stopped. That would have provided 80% of Europe's energy supply through Germany, by the way. It comes, the Nord Stream 2 pipeline passes through Germany, passes through under the Dead Sea or the Dead Sea or the Red Sea, whatever sea that there. It passes under straight from Russia to Germany. United States say, okay, continue, even though they wanted them to stop it so that they can continue depending on the West. But Russia and Europe decide, okay, let's come together for us to do our thing so they can provide 80%. And by the way, guys, Ukraine has the rest 20%. And guess where Ukraine getting their stuff from? Russia. They getting it from Russia. Anyways, let's continue.
escalation and tensions, and the easing of tensions serves the interests of people in Europe, but it is harmful to the
the
share
West.
value of US fracking companies.
Doesn't that tell you something, guys? Doesn't that tell you, you don't get it yet?
One thing is very, I think it's very remarkable. Why is oil from Russia is not on the list of the sanctions?
Why? Why? Because they know if it stop, problem not going to happen in the United States. Because the United States is, like I said before, importing about 600,000 gallons of oil from Russia, of gas from Russia.
And I know because the US is one of the biggest
importers.
how you say receivers of Russian oil. Russian oil is exported to the US. It's the third biggest country from where the US has his oil.
Anyways, guys, I'll post that link in the description below so you guys can check it out. I'll post the links that I have of this kind of vibrations in the description below so you guys can check it out for yourself. Get the full scope. So when I'm talking and people think, oh, I don't know what I said, everything that is stated right there can be proven. Every single thing. The only thing that people might say, oh, when United States say, okay, but they actually followed through. They followed through initially with actually not expanding NATO. And then the other presidents came in and decided to expand NATO. Trump decided they're not going to do that. This is why there was peace during Trump's time. Guess what Biden decided to do? They wanted to expand. Well, and we have the escalation right now. The escalation is taking place. And the media wouldn't normally push that out, you know. The media wouldn't normally push those kind of things out. So when I come in and saying things, it's not just saying for saying things. I don't know what I talking about. It is important for people to do the research and understand exactly what is going on. Why things are happening. What caused it to happen. Now the West is pushing the narrative as if Russia them is trying to ignite the USSR. That have nothing to do with it. Since 2010, people in the United States, professors and individuals have been stating the very same thing right there. Saying, why are they creating this thing? Why are they pushing it forward? What is the point of expanding NATO? When you know NATO is a military thing. So if anything happens, or you can just come in and just, Guys, let me know your thoughts in this regard right there. I just had to do this video because people were talking foolishness under my post. So I had to drop this, man. And by the way, guys, nobody can stop me from talking about what I want to talk about, you know, guys. If you don't want to listen to it, that is you. But I know I'm making my information correct. And I did a number of research and lined up with the different things that individuals had to say. So when it's lining up with these individuals, I got these guys, I found what they say were making a lot of sense in accordance to what I did. So that's why I put it out there. It has a lot to do with the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. That is the main basis. And the escalation of that had to do with them forcing or literally rejecting what Russia was saying for them not to Look, guys, it's so simple to understand. Cause and effect. Germany said, okay, they'll continue the pipeline and whatnot. America made it a pact with Germany saying, okay, if there's any escalation by Russia, you need to stop the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. What they did, they went to Ukraine, trying to expand NATO. NATO and the Donbass region was fighting with them. The people were running in. They came in and invaded. Look, they say, okay, there's escalation. Boom, Nord Stream 2 pipeline stop. Because of the companies they're trying to make. Boy, little easy that place there, boy. Russia came in. There's also more information. There's also a little more information, but that's too much information right there for one vlog, one reaction video right there, guys. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in this regard. Leave your thoughts in the comment box below. Stop buying into what the media tell you. People doesn't learn, or you don't learn from what all this foolishness they was posting on the media about the same Rona situation. All you didn't learn. All the medias were promoting, oh, get this injection, it's gonna stop you. Look at this and that. Are they protecting Biden from the foolishness? Come on, people. No, guys, don't get me wrong. I'm not against the West. But when the West is I'm trying to play bully on another country and trying to instigate things just for them to take the advantage. That is not fair. That is not fair if you're trying to be competitive in the market. And the same thing they did for Dominica. When they caused the banana industry to go down. And on the basis that has something to do with it. The United States say, oh, no, you have to compete with the market. And Europe had to agree to that extent. Now, which one was cheaper and faster to produce was done in South America. That was the United States people. On that basis, competition is properly had. Now, you're trying to just infringe on people and trying to disturb people and say make everything as if it's their fault when it's you that instigating it. Come on, people. It's a sad thing that they invaded Ukraine and this kind of situation happened. But who instigated it is a big question. Who instigated it? Anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts in this regard. Leave your thoughts in the comment box below. I just had to post it out there for you guys because some of you just talking foolishness on my post. Anyways, guys, give this video a thumbs up if you understand it, and let me know your thoughts in this regard. I'll see you guys in the next reaction video. Boom, bam.